Lesson 6.2 is on surface areas of prisms. Essential question is, how can a net help you find the surface area of a prism? So the last lesson we looked into different solids. We looked into prisms, pyramids, cones, and cylinders. So we're going to take turns looking into the surface areas of each of these solids. And the first one is going to be prisms. Although there are many types of different prisms, we're going to mainly look into two different types. We'll look into the rectangular prisms and then the triangular prisms. Before we find the surface area, we're going to review finding the area of different shapes. When you find the area of a rectangle or square or parallelograms, you're going to multiply the length and width, which I'm just going to put L and W for replacing the length and width. And then for a triangle, you're going to just go one more step. And unlike rectangles, you're going to have base and height. So you have the bottom is base, and then height is going to be exactly 90 degrees. And you're going to do base times height divided by 2, because if you just do base times height, you're actually going to get the area of a parallelogram. So the equation for the area of a triangle, it's going to be base times height divided by 2. We usually call length and width, but you can also call this base and height as well. So you can do B times H or L times W, whichever way that you want to use. So you have two different ways to express this. Either way, it's okay for a rectangle or a parallelogram. So first, we need to know this, and based on these two figures, we are able to find the surface area of a prism. Now, if you notice from the essential question, you have a word called a net. So other than a net that you use for any games for sports, the net for math is going to be an open box format of the shape. So for example, when you are trying to recycle a box, you're going to make sure you disassemble all the parts and you make them flat. So just like that, you're going to make the flat figure a net of a prism in order to help you find the surface area. So by definition, a net is a 2D representation of a solid. Okay, so it looks something like this. So as you can see, this is going to be the net, and I am going to have, in this case, 3 pairs of identical figures. So I'm going to color code them. You can use different colors, or you can just use different shading scales. So for example, I have these 2 wings that are the same, and I'm going to have these 2 that are going to be the same, and then I'm going to have the middle one, the big one, and they're going to be the same. So for a prism, especially a rectangular prism, you're going to have 6 sides, and you're going to have 3 pairs of rectangles. Depending on the shape, sometimes the lateral shapes, the lateral here, these ones, are going to be identical, so you don't have to find 3 different pairs. You may just have to work with 2 different pairs. So the surface area means you're going to add all these sides that you see here, all 6 sides, and you're going to add the areas of all these sides and find out what is going to be the total of the whole outside. So let's take a look at some of the examples to see how we can use the net. I'm going to draw a rectangular prism. Let's say I have a rectangular prism like this, and I'm going to have 3, 5, and 6 units for this shape. And I'm going to just indicate the parts that is hidden from our view. Okay, so you're going to have all 6 sides. Now I'm going to draw a net of this rectangular prism. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that even though my picture is not identical to my actual figure, I have to make it so that I can write down the units. You can pause the video to draw this figure because I know it may take some time for you to draw it. I'm just going ahead so that I can have a short video. So I'm going to indicate which parts are going to be the parts that I need. I have the top parts and the bottom parts, so these are the bases. And these areas are going to be my bases. Okay, So that way I can compare my measurements. First, I am going to have 3 for my short side. So 3 is going to be my short side. That means this is also 3. And whichever way that you have 3's, right? And because this side, can't really see it, huh? This side and this side are going to be identical because they close off completely. This is also going to be 3. Okay, and then my other side for the base is going to be 5. So this is 5, and also this is 5. If this side is 5, that means whatever I have here, this is also going to be 5. So, and I don't really need to know all of these figures because I will just multiply one of them by 2. And then my height is going to be 6. So everything else, the height is always going to be 6. Okay. And I want to now find out my areas of these sides. So 3 times 5, that's going to be your bases. So bases is going to be 3 times 5. Now you have 2 bases, so what you have to do is you'll have to double that, and that's going to be the total surface area of the bases. And then for the skinny part right here, which is equivalent to the side that you see, so I'll just go ahead and say side 1. Okay, and they're going to be 3 times 6. And you also have 2 of those, right? You have 1 on the other side, so I just counted these 2. The big side that you have left are going to be this middle part, which are going to be the sides that you see here, and you have 2 of them as well. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply the side 2's, which are going to be 5 times 6. Okay, because this side is going to be identical as this side, so 5, and then the height is 6. So 5 times 6, and then you also multiply that by 2. So let's go ahead and see. 3 times 5, 15, times 2, that's going to be 30. 3 times 6 is 18, times 2, that's going to be 36. 5 times 6 is going to be 30, times 2, that's going to be 60. And what you're doing is you're going to add all 3 pairs, and your final answer is going to be 6 here and 126. Now, important part is because this one doesn't have a unit, you really can't identify the unit here. So I'm just going to put unit, and then you have to put squared. You can't just put centimeters or meters because you're finding the area of it. So you'll have to find out the total and then put this squared sign. The exponent is basically saying that you are finding the area. Let's say you work with a triangular prism. So I drew a triangular prism, and this one is going to have a 90-degree angle. So this is going to be a right angle. And I'm going to have the dimension for this one with 3 units, 4 units, and then 5 units. So I have 3, 4, and 5 for this triangle. And then I'm also going to have the height of 3. Okay, I'm going to draw the net first and then find the area of this shape. Again, you can feel free to pause the video whenever you want to draw this figure. You can draw it in other ways too. The triangle, the bases can be either here or here or here. It just will have a different position depending on which way you open it. Okay, so this one, I know that my shortest side is going to be 3. So this is going to be also 3. And my hypotenuse, which is going to be the longest side, I know that is going to be 5. So this is 5. And then that means the other one is going to be 4. So whichever one that you overlap with, so this side is also going to be 4. And then the height was 3. Okay. And then the bottom one will have the same dimension. So for triangle ones, you're going to have a little less pairs, and you'll have more of an individual one, because in this case you'll have 3 different sides with different dimensions, and then your bases are going to be identical. So let's go ahead and work with the bases. My bases are going to be the triangle because this is a triangular prism. So I'll have the base right here, and then I have 2 bases. So I have to make sure I include the top and bottom. So once I find the area of a triangle, you can just double that. So the good thing about finding the surface area with the triangles and triangular prisms is that you don't really have to divide it and then multiply it again, but I would recommend you to do it for now when you are practicing and getting used to this habit. If you're comfortable finding the area and you know that you're not going to mess it up later on, I don't mind if you skip that. So I'm going to find the area first of a triangle, and I know I have to use a base and a height. I cannot use 5 as my base or height because I need to have those 2 meet in 90 degrees angle. So I can use 3 and 4. So I do 3 times 4, but then I have to make sure I divide that by 2, and then I have 2 of those. Okay, that's why I said you don't really have to go this part, dividing and then multiplying. If you just want to do 3 times 4 and then just leave it as that, that would actually cover both of these bases. But right now I'm going to put it this way because I know some of you guys are going to be confused. Okay, and then I'll have my sides. I'll have 1, 2, 3 for the sides, and then I'll color code it. So my first side is going to be the front actually, and it's going to be 3 times 3. Okay, my second side, which is going to be the biggest part, is actually going to be hidden on the back right there. It's kind of hard to see, but side 2 is going to be 5 times 3, or 3 times 5. And then my third one, which is going to be this, you're going to have 3 times 4. And you don't have to double any of these because you only have 1 of each. And then you go ahead and calculate. So this one, I know 3 times 4 is 12, divided by 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is going to be 12 again. So I have 12, 9, 15, and 12. And then I add all of them. So I have 2 of the 12, so that's going to be 24. I have 15 and 9, that's also going to be another 24. So I add 24 and 24, that's going to give me 48. And I put 48 unit squared because I'm trying to find the area of this whole thing. For some of you, you may not even have to draw the net. Sometimes people can just look at the numbers that you have and then find out the sides. So for example, if you're just looking at this shape on the left and trying to find out, you can do, okay, I have 3 times 3, and I have 3 times 5, or actually this like that, 3 times 5, and then I also have 4 times 3, okay, and then I have the 2 bottoms, which are going to be 3 times 4 divided by 2 times 2. So if you can work that way, great, but if you're not so used to it, I advise you to start with this. It doesn't have to be completely accurate as a picture, but if you can write down the measurements, I think it may help you to find out how many sides you have to add, how many sides you have to find out the areas, and then add all together. Whenever you're working with this lesson, if you're confused, I advise you to get a box of tissue or something so that you can actually see the sides and plug in the numbers that you have for your questions, and then see if you covered all 3 sides, or all 6 sides, or all 4 sides, etc. Thanks for watching the video for today, and if you have watched this video all the way through, draw a rectangular prism of any kind next to your name. Thank you.